The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Well, hello everyone. This is Dennis Kaye here, coming to you live today, June 28th, 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. I'd like to welcome all of you to today's webinar, and I promise to make it very exciting and informative. And would like to thank you in advance for attending, showing up, and also getting your questions ready, because today I'm going to allow plenty of time during and immediately after the webinar to take all of your questions and get everything set so you can feel comfortable and really learn something today that you can maybe use in your own lives, especially as you look forward to spending time in Belize, investing in Belize, or doing something else to just to see if Belize is right for you. So it is 12 o'clock on the dot, and if you would, please just type in if you can see the opening slide with my picture on it. And if you can hear my voice okay, if I'm coming through clear and there's no hiccups or anything, type in yes in the question or chat box just to make sure that everyone is able to see and hear the presentation today. Excellent. Thank you, Dee Dee. Really appreciate that. And thanks a lot for showing up. So let's give everyone just another minute or two, as I usually do, because I start on time, but I know sometimes with the GoToWebinar app, people have a little bit of problem maybe downloading it or refreshing it or rebooting their computers or iPads when they go to attend. So let's give everybody just a minute to get online, because I know we're going to have a pretty full house today, and then we'll begin in earnest. So in the meantime, if you have any questions for me, feel free to write those in the question box. Sometimes I will take those as they come in. It depends on the subject matter and if I can answer it quickly, or I might reserve the answering of that particular question that you asked to the end of the webinar when I can spend more time on it. And maybe those who need to go, if they have another appointment, they can go off on to other business. And those who can stick around for the extended Q&A, they can do so. Very good. All right. So excellent. This is going to be a very exciting webinar. This is all brand new, by the way. I've spent all week curating the latest and greatest news coming from Belize. I created all new slides. So even if you are a repeat attendee or if you're a current property owner, I think a lot of the information is going to apply to you as well, and you're going to find it very, very interesting. So let's begin in earnest. Who am I? Well, for those of you who don't know who I am, Stephanie, my wife, and myself grew up in Bay City, Michigan. We wanted an expat lifestyle. So in 2002, we began to look at the world to see where it was possible for us to move to improve the quality of our life. And my beautiful bride found us the country of Belize. So in 2003, we moved to Belize. We spent 2.5 years living on the mainland, and we traveled that extensively, basically living off of savings. And I had a small business in the U.S. at that time. And we traveled everywhere from Corozal in the north to Punta Gorda, Plasencia in the south. We explored the western coast of Belize extensively around San Ignacio, the Cayo district, beautiful jungle terrain in the area, and spent a lot of time in Belize City and Hattieville, where we were based out of. But then about 2.5 years, we decided to try on the Caribbean lifestyle, the island life, as I like to call it. And so we moved to Ambergris Caye. And there is where I got my start in real estate investing myself, and where I took on a position as a broker and a real estate agent, helping others to do the same. And over the period of the time that we lived there, we were involved in many different exciting things. For example, I got to work with House Hunters International as they shot an episode there. I also worked with HDTV, their new show called Live Here, Buy This, where we highlighted many different properties on the islands and on the mainland of Belize. And I also was interviewed for several different podcasts regarding investing in Belizean real estate and in creating a lifestyle design that Belize real estate can help you achieve. And that was all really cool, because really that got me some international attention and helped me with my credibility, and also got me the opportunity to work with a lot of really, really nice people for the United States, Canada, Europe, South America, as I was able to help them to fulfill their dreams of investing in Belize as well. So that's enough about me. I just want to give you a little bit of a snapshot of who you're working with today. But I know this webinar is going to be about you and the questions that you have. So I'm just guessing that this webinar is not your first time researching Belize real estate or the country of Belize. You probably have a lot of questions, some of which I'll try to answer here today. But I put these webinars together to help different groups of people at different times. And I know the attendees that I'll have today make up different styles of investors, lifestyle, financial. Maybe they already have properties in Belize. So what I'm going to do, just so I know who is on today and who I can really tailor this to, I'm going to run a very short poll. You're going to see that pop up here on your screen. It's a very simple question. Why are you attending the webinar today? And there's 5 answers. I'm just curious about Belize and want to learn more. I'm looking to own vacation property. I would like to retire in Belize. I would like to invest as in a financial investment in Belize real estate, or I already own property and I'm looking for the latest news. So if you would, just go ahead and click one of those boxes, hit submit, and that way I know basically who's on, what I can tailor this information to, and what I can do better next time to make sure that the information is going out and hitting the right audience. So I'm going to leave this up here just for another 10, 15 seconds. Thank you very much for helping me do this. I really do use this information. It's very helpful to have. And then I'm going to actually show you guys the results of the poll so you can see who's online and who your fellow attendees are. So it looks like the poll is rounding down. All right, I will close it out and I will share the results. So there you go. So let's see, 17% are looking to own vacation property. Excellent. 33% are looking to retire in Belize. That's interesting because those looking for vacation properties often buy different properties than those who are looking to retire. A little bit difference there. Those who are looking to invest in Belize for the financial return, 17%. That's typical. And then 33% already own property and you're looking for the latest news. Excellent. Very good. All right. So based on that, I'll tailor my presentation today, and let's move on with the program. So my objectives and goals are to help all attendees. So number one, if you're looking for a financial or lifestyle investment, or if you already own property, I'm going to focus on those things. But today, the main focus, you might say, is point number 2, the changing vibe of Ambergris Caye. I want to give you a little history of what we've experienced on island over the past 10, 15 or more years, what it looks like now in terms of vibe and lifestyle, and where we see it moving to in the next 12 months, 36 months, and even longer, 10, 15 years down the road. And I think this is going to be interesting to all of you because if you own property, you probably want to know what's coming down the pipeline. If you're looking to retire in Belize, you want to know what your retirement might look like and so forth. I'm also going to show you a couple of webinar specials and buyers incentives to see how we might be able to partner up together on a couple of different properties. And then we'll have some live Q&A and wrap things up and send you on your merry way. Does that sound good? All right, very good. Well, let's get started then. I love Warren Buffett. I love his investment style. So I'm going to base the first part of my webinar on one of his most famous quotes regarding investing. He has 2 rules. Rule number 1, never lose money. And rule number 2, don't forget rule number 1. So if you're attending this webinar, most likely you are looking at taking some of your hard-earned money and investing it in offshore real estate. And with that, obviously, comes risk. Anytime we trade our money in for something else, there is a risk involved. Obviously, some types of investments are riskier than others, but we're going to do our best to educate ourselves to make a good decision so that we don't lose money. And we most likely are looking for some sort of return, whether it be financial or lifestyle return. Well, I'd like to just add to Warren's quote a little bit. Mine is never lose money. And also, if you're looking to invest offshore, be careful that you don't lose time. Because money you can make back. If you make a bad deal, you can always do something else and get that money back. But time, not so much. And here's what I mean by that. If you buy in the wrong part of Belize, a place that doesn't match your personality, or if you don't get what you think you are paying for, then what happens is you can spend a lot of your time paying for that mistake in terms of maintaining a property or not using it as much as you'd like or having bad experiences. All of that is going to take away from your use and enjoyment of a property in Belize. So 2 things, invest in something that you're not going to lose money on, but also invest in something that you're not going to lose your time on. So choose your investment wisely. Now, what can help you to make a good investment? Well, there are 3 confidence boosters, things that we can do that help us to see whether or not we should be moving towards or away from a certain type of property or investment. And they are these 3 things. Number 1, if we feel we have enough accurate information, reliable information, And number two, if it's easy to understand. Now, there are several things that I personally do not invest in that others do just because I can't understand them. If I can't make sense of it, I'm not going to invest. So the information has to be clearly presented. It has to be not only believable, but reliable and accurate and easy to understand in order for us to move forward. Number two, it's helpful if we know the history of an investment. And that history can involve, for instance, Belize, the past, present, and future history of Ambergris Caye, the changing vibe and where it's going, or it could be involve a company that you're investing in, or a certain stock or a bond or something. But it helps us to see the track record of a certain investment. We're going to take a look at that today on Ambergris Caye. And number three, what helps us to move toward a certain investment is if people that we trust, people like us with our set of core beliefs and morality, and businesses that we trust have invested as well. And then we have a more of a confidence level in investing in that type of real estate. So there are also things that make us move away from making a purchase, make us feel very insecure. And these are these three things. If we feel we don't have enough information, or if that information is difficult to understand, then that creates fear, apprehension, and then we say, you know what, I've done some research. I don't have a good vibe about this. I don't have a good feeling. I'm going to put it on the back burner. And you know what, I'm just going to take it right off the stove. I'm not going to do anything with it. So we walk away from that type of investment. Number two, if we do understand everything there is to know about the history, past, present, and future, but it's not enough, it's not a compelling story, or if the numbers just don't make sense to us, or if we don't like the way a certain investment is heading, then of course we back away. And if number three, if we like a certain investment, but those that we trust around us are not buying into it, companies, individuals are not investing as well, then we might think, well, what is wrong with me then? Why am I seeing something that others perhaps who have more knowledge or have done more homework or research, if they're not investing, well, then, why should I? So that also can be a good warning sign that you might be moving away from that rather than moving towards. So first of all, for those of you who are attending for the first time today, those of you who are just starting to research Belize, I want to briefly go through 6 reasons why Belize might be right for you. And I say might because if at the end of this presentation it's not, no worries. I'm not high pressure. I just want you to get the accurate, reliable information to see if Belize makes sense for you. And for those of you who are attending today who already own property, you know these things, just bear with me. This is just going to take maybe 5 to 7 minutes. So number one reason why Belize is getting so much attention, both from a retiree standpoint, those looking to own vacation homes, and those looking to invest, is because it is English speaking. Belize was British Honduras, so it was part of the British Commonwealth. So as such, its core language is English. And that's really important because all of the real estate contracts, all of the banking contracts, your doctors speak English. Basically, you're in an English-speaking environment, and it makes people who are looking to retire to a country very comfortable and feel more secure. That's not to say that many aren't retiring to places like Panama and Costa Rica, those who want to learn Spanish, maybe the Dominican Republic, but because Belize is the only English-speaking country in Central America, it is getting an unusually high number of expats, baby boomers, retirees, and investors looking at it because it is very easy to understand the moment you step off the plane and you set foot in the country. Number two, Belize is based on British common law, something we from North America are used to. So United States, Canada, it's based on British common law. So it's not Sharia law or another type of law system that we're not familiar with. The government is familiar. It's a two-party system, democratically elected prime minister. But number three is very important for us. The real estate laws, because it's based on British common law, are also very easy to understand. And what I mean by that is in Belize, when you purchase property, whether it be a condo, a home, a piece of land, you, as an American or a Canadian or a European, actually own title, free and clear. You have it in your own personal name or in your business name, whatever you want to do, but you actually own the property. Now, this is very different because in some countries you have to go through some loopholes. For instance, the beachfront of Mexico, foreigners can't own it, so they have to form a Mexican corporation, and they have to be, they have to jump through a lot of hoops. But you never really actually own the property, or it could be something like a long-term lease, like a 99-year lease. Well, that for one makes people a little leery of investing in places like Mexico or Panama or other countries that don't have full ownership rights and protections for expats. So in Belize, we seem to be attracting a lot more investors, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. But going on to point number 4, this is very important because you might not have considered the government of the country that you're looking to invest in. But this to me is critical because if the government doesn't fully back up the ownership and your rights as an expat or a foreigner to own property in their country, then I think that can be a very risky investment. Belize has a stable democratic government. They are very pro-tourism, but along with being pro-tourism, they are very cautious when it comes to development. So they make sure the development is sustainable, that it's good for the environment, as well as for the financial success of the country. And because of that, they have set aside a high percentage of the land. I believe that the number is 53% of all the landmass in Belize is set apart for national parks and marine reserves. And here's a few examples of that, how pro-environmental they are and the protections they have put in place. For example, in January 2018, the government of Belize banned all offshore drilling and gas exploration. They did this because one bad spill could severely impact the reef, the marine life, and impact all the tourism that generates revenue for the country of Belize, and recognizing that the Belize Barrier Reef is part of the UNESCO World Heritage Site, and they didn't want to do anything that could potentially damage that barrier reef. So they banned offshore drilling. It was huge in the news, and it was very, very exciting for the country, cheered on by environmental groups around the world and local Belizeans themselves. Recently, just last month, they banned single-use plastic bags and straws. You might think, well, why is that a big deal? Well, places like Ambergris Caye, Caye, the islands of Belize, you can imagine the amount of plastic that they go through due to high-end tourism or high volume tourism, and plastic bags and straws never break down. So you imagine on a breezy island, these things get whipped all over, and they might end up in the waters and the mangroves, and then they just sit there and they never rot away. So they've been changing the types of bags they use, the types of to-go containers that the restaurants use. So they're very, very pro-environment. Also, look at point number 3, they have expanded the Ho Chan Marine Reserve. And this is pretty huge because around Ambergris Caye, there are already very large national parks that are called marine reserves. So Ho Chan, Mexico Rocks. Toward the north, you have the Bacalar Chico National Park and Marine Reserve, where a large part of the landmass itself of Ambergris Caye is set aside to be a national park that will never be developed or built on. And also, point number 4 is important. The EIA, or the Environmental Impact Assessment Studies for all new major developments, have taken on more stringent controls. So example, a couple of the resorts we're going to talk about coming up, such as Four Seasons, Cayo Rosario, Blacador Caye, these are major developments. In order to move forward, they had to submit their plans in detail after doing extensive research and studies to the government of Belize, and then after extensive review, questioning and counter-questioning, they either approve a development or they do not approve a development to move forward. And so that EIA has been proven very, very instrumental in helping the islands of Belize and even parts of the mainland to grow at a sustainable rate that also protects the environment. So these, a couple more things, a couple more reasons here. Number 5 and 6, Belize also has a very close proximity to the United States and Canada, make it very easy for expats, retirees, vacation homeowners to get back and forth to the country, and offers them the Caribbean lifestyle, so they can live on a Caribbean island, but also have the safety and security and exploration possibilities of having the mainland right there, just 12 miles away. So things like cave tubing, visiting the Mayan ruins, mainland exploration, jungle treks, horseback riding, all of those types of things come with a lifestyle on Ambergris Caye because it's just a short water taxi or flight away. So for those reasons, just to give you attendees, if you're a first-time attendee or researcher of Belize, these are the top 6 reasons why we are seeing a large amount of people looking to invest in Belize for all these reasons. And you can see why. Here are some photos of Ambergris Caye showing an aerial view of San Pedro town, the beach club over at Mahogany Bay Village. We have the waters there, the crystal clear waters. You can see the reef off in the distance. This is the reason why Ambergris Caye is called the jewel and why they are so adamant that it be protected and that not be overdeveloped or damaged in any way. International Living, a well-known expat magazine, voted Ambergris Caye the top island in the world to live on, one of the top islands to move to that is easy for a North American, for an expat from North America, and one of the top places to easily meet fellow expats. So some of the things I just explained to you might seem technical, like, well, English speaking and Belize property laws and EIAs, how does that translate into to a decision that I might want to make or not make? Well, all those things go in to making a good experience and a good lifestyle, because ultimately you're probably purchasing something to enjoy these types of views, these types of settings, and you want it to remain this way, not just in your lifetime, you're enjoying it now, but also your children, your grandchildren. So you want to make sure that the future of the country, 10, 20, 30 years down the road, the island still looks just as beautiful and pristine. Now, for those of you who don't know where Ambergris Caye is just 12 miles off the mainland of Belize. It is the largest island belonging to Belize, 24 miles long, 3 miles wide. It's got a very small population, only 24,000 people live there, and that includes expats and tourism. And it is the #1 retirement and relocation destination in Belize. And the reason for this is because not only is it a pristine island, but a lot of the activities that people like to enjoy while on vacation or while living in Belize are right at its doorstep. So snorkeling, diving, fishing, kayaking, jet skiing, sailing, boating, all of that takes place right at the Barrier Reef, which is literally 400 to 800 yards offshore. And so it's nice because you have your island paradise, but then you can be as busy or relaxed as you want. You have a lot of activities to choose from. Ambergris Caye has also been in the news in the past several years. For example, TripAdvisor voted it the #1 island in the world in 2013 and 2014. Islands Magazine voted it the #1 island in the world to retire to. And it's also been highlighted in very prestigious magazines such as the Bloomberg Report, the Robb Report, International Living. We commented on that. Islands and so forth. So really, it has a lot of accolades and been getting a lot of attention lately, and we're going to see why coming up here in just a few minutes. So we talked about those 3 reasons that people might be more inclined to move toward making a secure investment. And the first one we just covered, if we feel we have enough information and it's easy to understand, then we may feel like it's possible for us to dig a little deeper, right, and to move a little forward to making some type of investment. So we talked about Belize being English speaking, based on British common law, secure property ownership, stable pro-environmental government. We talked about some of the lifestyle and financial returns. Now, let me just quote on this real quick. I forgot. Mike M. He said, based on all this, he actually moved to Belize from the United States. He said it was like moving abroad with training wheels on. We quickly adjusted to our new home and our new island life, and we love it. So I like that terminology that he used, training wheels, because sometimes I feel that, especially we Americans who sometimes don't travel as much as maybe people do in other countries. But because the United States is so large, we might have had the experience of spending an extended time abroad. So we might feel intimidated or nervous about doing that. But with Belize, I'm not going to say it's like a little US or a little North America, but in many ways, there is that comfortable feeling because of these six things that we just talked about. So it sort of is like moving abroad without all the intimidation and making it feel daunting or overwhelming, just like Mike said. So let's talk about number two. The second reason that we can have confidence moving toward a specific investment is if we know and understand some of the history. Look at the past, understand the present, and then look at the future and see how that affects the financial and lifestyle returns. Let's just get into that a little bit. When I first went to Belize to spy out the land in 2003, I traveled the mainland extensively and also the islands. And when I got to Ambergris Caye, and actually moved there a few years later, I found that all of the roads were sand, which was kind of cool. There were electric golf carts, so no gas golf carts at the time. Not even any major larger vehicles like delivery trucks and so forth. Very, very few taxis, and mainly the island was much smaller at the time in terms of population. The north side was almost completely undeveloped. In fact, if you could take your electric golf cart across the split by the hand pulled ferry, you might be able to go about 3 blocks. And that was all the golf cart companies allowed you to go, because after that there was just nothing, and it was a pretty rough area and really a no man's land. There were no developments at all on the west coast of the island, certainly not on the San Pedro Lagoon, and there was no access to Ambergris Bay except by boat. So pretty much the only part you could explore at that time was San Pedro town itself, and then going south a little bit to Victoria House. There wasn't much past there, and going north to the Split. And that was the extent of the development on island at the time. And so you might be saying, okay, well, what are the pros and cons of what it was like then compared to perhaps what it's like now? Well, I guess it depends on how you look at it. For one, there was less people, so the island was much quieter for sure. San Pedro town was very quiet, even at midday. You didn't have a lot of traffic at all. But also with that came less options. So, for example, at that time, most of the people coming to the island were divers, and so they would stay for 5 or 6 days, and they would spend each day diving and each night drinking at the beach bars there and having dinner at one of the restaurants. But your options for breakfast and lunch were limited, and even for dinner out, because there wasn't enough tourism to support any more development that was already there. And because of that, too, there wasn't much growth in terms of jobs and opportunities for the hundreds of young men and women who were graduating from high school every year, who were looking to do something to sustain themselves in order to get married and have a family of their own. There just simply wasn't much going on the island for the past 10, 20, 30 years. And so there weren't many opportunities. So many of them had to leave. So it definitely started to change in 2003, 2004. And let's see what happened. Oh, first of all, I wanted to show you a few pictures for those of you who haven't seen these before. On the upper right, we have the channel that separates North and South Ambergris Caye. And up until the Barry Bowen Bridge was built, you got back and forth by this little barge that was hand pulled back and forth by two strong men. And you would drive your bicycle or drive your electric golf cart on there, and they would pull it back and forth. So that was the extent of the access to the north side of Ambergris Caye. And so because of that, it severely limited the growth in that part of the island. And also you see the sandy streets there of San Pedro town. So that's Main Street in 2002. And you can see the roads are all sand. You think, wow, that's kind of nice. I like that. Well, it was kind of cool. But I tell you what, after a good heavy rain, it with just a little bit of traffic for the taxis that were on the island at the time, the roads got extremely washboard, extremely potholed. They would hold water, breed mosquitoes, and they would have to be graded often. And the roads weren't all what they were cracked up to be. For instance, this picture shows them looking pretty nice and sort of a quaint walking town. But this is a working town, and so with sand roads, with vehicles driving back and forth, the paved roads which we have now is a huge improvement. Now, I want to turn your attention to something pretty cool that you might not have seen before. to show you the difference of where we were at in 2003 and where we are at today. This is a Google Earth photo of Ambergris Caye, the center portion of it, as taken in 2003. And if you've never played with this, when the webinar is done, go to Google Earth, go to Ambergris Caye, and then you can toggle the date that the pictures were taken. So this shows the center band of Ambergris Caye, about 3.5 miles north of San Pedro town. You see Cayo Rosario off there to the distance to the left in Ambergris Bay, and then you see the barrier reef there on the right-hand side. And then in this center section, there is nothing. Okay, so no development at all, no subdivisions, no nothing in this section. Now, if we fast forward to 2018, this is what we find in this exact same section. So we have the subdivisions of Ambergris Bay, Colonial San Diego 1 and 2 were created. After that came Grand Belizean Estates, Palmyra Woods, Mayan Estate subdivisions, and with that came an access road leading over from the east coast over to the west coast, and that has made possible development in this area and the development of the secret beach area, which is now, I believe, the #1 spot according to TripAdvisor on Ambergris Caye, is to go and hang out for the day is Secret Beach. So this has happened just in the past few years. And also another thing to take a look at is the south side of Ambergris Caye, about 2 miles south, just across from Victoria House. This is a Google Earth shot of how it looked in 2003. And you notice I'm pointing a yellow arrow to an area of just dead, swampy, stagnant water area. Okay. And then this area, surprisingly, in 2016, began to be developed. You can see the canals there that were cut, the land that was created, and that today is where the newly opened Hilton Curio Collection Mahogany Bay Village Hotel and Resort is. So that now is a thriving part of the island. What once was a mosquito-infested, just muddy, murky swamp is now a thriving little mini town in and of itself, complete with new restaurants, cafes, coffee shops, bars, pool, and off to the coast on the west coast, a private beach club. So these are the changes that have taken place since my wife and I moved there. And so you might say, okay, well, what does the island look like presently? Well, with the current developments that we have, it has really opened up and expanded the ability to not only visit and see different parts of the island, but to purchase property in different parts of the island in up and coming areas, and in many times to get good deals in doing so. Electric has been expanded far north, all the way up to about 14, 15 miles north at Tranquility Bay. Electric has been expanded south, all the way down to the southern tip at the Serene Resort. Also, we see expansion taking place in and around the San Pedro Lagoon, and certainly all up and down the west coast of Ambergris Bay. In terms of job creation, we have very large, booming resorts now that employ hundreds of locals, such as Grand Caribe, Cocoa Beach, Las Terrazas, Mahogany Bay Village, Barrier Reef Resort, and many, many others. This has been a big boom to the workforce there, and that's also helped us to create more options when it comes to tourism. So restaurants, cafes, beach bars, even tourism in and around Ambergris Caye itself has been able to be expanded, with many tour companies providing not just snorkeling and diving, but more tours like manatee watching, jet skiing, houseboat tours of the west side, really a lot of new experiences. And as we mentioned, many are able to get into areas of the island and purchase and invest where they may not have been able to afford it before. So these new subdivisions, such as Ambergris Bay, Grand Belize, Palmyra Woods, those are offered at a price point that many are able to afford, which as before, they were just simply priced out of the market. Now, these new developments are enabling people to purchase and get their own little slice of paradise. And then number 7 is pretty important. During this time period, from 2003 to now 2018, Ambergris Caye passed the 2,000 room threshold. What that means is now we have 2,000 hotel or condos available for rent by the evening. This means we have enough volume of hotel rooms to offer the tourism industry, and now we can really say that the island is open for business. So we can accept charter flights, we can have a lot of advertising go out because now we have places to put people and enough infrastructure in place to house them all and to ensure they have a good quality experience, a good quality time. So now you might be saying, has all of this development been met with positive reactions, with negative reactions? Has it been good? Has it been bad? Well, it really depends on your viewpoint. I'm not going to lie and say it's all good and paint this rosy picture. There are some that have a very negative view. So I'll be completely honest. They tend to be those who purchased their properties maybe 5, 10, 20 years ago. They tend to be people that live on the island full time, and they sometimes have a not in my backyard attitude. Not all the times, but some they can be very vocal against any sort of new development, and that's to be understood. I mean, they have this little quiet sandy road village that has now definitely changed. They have more and more tourism's coming, so now maybe they have to make reservations at their favorite restaurant, whereas before they could just pop in and not have to do that. But it's interesting because what I have seen personally over the years are these same individuals that can be somewhat vocal against new development coming in are the same ones who in very short order can be seen at those new developments, having a beer at the beach bar, eating in those restaurants, frequenting those areas. So at first, when they were opposed to any sort of change, well, like with anything, change sort of grows on us humans. We get used to the idea, and then we accept it as, development must go on, and we accept it, and all is good. So what has this provided though is, like I mentioned, more options for you, the investor, or for those looking to vacation on the island. It actually has resulted in a higher quality of service because now tour companies really need to perform and get good reviews, provide a good experience. If they don't, then tourists have other options to go with. And also, it's created more options depending on your budget and your lifestyle and what you see yourself doing. So this has opened up different parts of the island, different opportunities, and more services and amenities in the form of restaurants, cafes, beach bars, experiences as we talked about. So here's just one slide that shows some of these that have just opened in the past year or two. So we have the truck stop, which is very, very popular with vacationers and expats alike. We have Giotto, which is a sushi seafood restaurant in Mahogany Bay Village. We even have a new French bakery called Boulangerie, and we have things like farmers markets now. And so why I bring this up is because when Steph and I moved to the island in 2003 or 2006, after living in the mainland for a couple years, these types of businesses could not be opened because they were not sustainable at the time. We didn't have the volume of tourists coming to the island. And so, in order to create businesses and jobs like that, it just wasn't possible. Now, with the volume of tourists we have, with the development we have on island, more and more businesses like this, many of which are owned by expats, are not only sustainable, but they're also thriving. So it's been a really, really neat thing to watch this change. Let me grab a little sip of tea to clear my throat and we'll continue on. All right, so we see where we are now. We see where we've come from. Now, what do we see looking toward the future? Well, first of all, let's take a look at the flights that now are arriving in Belize at the international airport in Belize City. We have had, over the past year or so, over 2,000 passenger seats per week added by the various airlines serving Belize, United States, and Canada. Now, it's interesting. These flights were added based on demand, not on speculation. Let me explain the difference. Let's say a new hotel wants to open up on the island of Ambergris Caye. So they build a 200-room hotel. They do that in expectation that 200 or 400 people per day would want to come and book rooms at their hotel. So if they have the mentality, if they build it, then we'll be able to fill it. The airlines work differently. The airlines, with their algorithms, they can see who is requesting flights to Belize, where those requests come from, and what they do is they only add a flight or several flights if the demand is already there. So, in the past few years, we have seen multiple airlines add service to Belize. American Airlines, Avianca, Copa, Delta, Southwest, of course, Tropic, United Airlines, WestJet, and others. There's others in the works as we speak. They're not announced yet, but there's other exciting news going to be coming out very soon, just a few months. So now all of these airlines are flying into Belize based on current demand, and that demand is just expected to grow. For example, just this week, Tropic Air announced a partnership with Copa Airlines to make flying to Belize easier for all those who use Copa. Now, here's the announcement that came out. Tropic Air and Copa announced on June 15th that they have an interline agreement that allows customers to purchase connecting flights at one ticket and receive boarding passes for all segments at their first check-in. So, as an example, if you're an American and let's say you're flying to Paris from uh, or let's say Myrtle Beach. I just did this. If I checked in for my flight at Myrtle Beach, I would fly from Myrtle Beach to Charlotte, Charlotte to Paris. At that initial check-in, I would get both boarding passes, a one-time check-in. Well, this is the first time that Tropic Air, which is a local airline in Belize that serves 15 destinations in Belize and internationally, they are actually partnering with a major airline like Copa. Now, would this extend to other airlines such as American, United, things like this? It might. I can see that happening, which would be even bigger partnership for them. But this is very interesting because Copa serves customers from 75 cities in the Americas. And Christophe Didier, the VP of Global Sales, said they are thrilled to partner with this Belize because they see the demand and they're looking to give their clients and customers easier access to the country. And it's interesting what the Minister of Tourism, Honorable Manuel Heredia Jr., said when this partnership took place. He said this, you notice the slide there in blue. He said, South American travelers experienced the second largest market growth in Belize, growing 33 and a third percent from the previous year. So that's not something we always think about. So if you're listening right now from the United States or Canada, where I think 90% of you are from, we might not think about the impact that other countries, Europe, South America, and others are having on the real estate values and the investments going on places like Ambergris Caye. And speaking of the European market, look what he said there in green. The European market also saw considerable expansion with a 17.6% growth compared to previous years. Now, what does that all mean for Ambergris Caye, its surrounding islands, and the country? Well, it is starting to attract the branded resorts and hotels. And this is a game changer for us. And the things I'm going to show you in the next 12 slides are all brand new news that just came out in this month, June 2018. For example, the Travel Market Report announced in this article, is Belize the Caribbean's next luxury getaway destination? So, luxury, let's focus in on that for a bit. This is a slide here showing the new Four Seasons Resort being built on the island of Caye Chapel. This is the first Four Seasons Resort going to be opening up in the country of Belize. It will include a Fabien Cousteau Nature and Conservation Institute, a 18-hole Greg Norman design golf course, complete with a Union Harbor, extensive marina village, of course, world-class dining options, which you always have at Four Seasons, and the Mortars Beach Club. This is an aerial view of Caye Chapel, where the Four Seasons is currently being built. You see it is just off the coast of the Barrier Reef there. You can see that to the right. Just to the north is the island of Caye, and then off to the distance of that, you can see the outline of Ambergris Caye. So it's very, very close. It's interesting here what Michael Crawford, who is the president of the Portfolio Management and Owner Relations, said about this area. He said, it really does remind me of the Maldives. And we know that they have an excellent reputation as a honeymoon destination, as a luxury destination, a place to go where you can experience high-end luxury on the water in an overwater bungalow. And that's exactly what the Four Seasons is planning. You see some renderings here down in these slides. And actually, it's interesting what Michael Crawford said also in this interview. He said that it is unusual or rare to find a place like this, a private island like this, much less one that's proximate to the United States and with good infrastructure. All right, so that's pretty telling of how and why they're developing this type of hotel in this part of Belize. Now, moving on, the Marriott International has also announced two properties that they have in the pipeline right on the island of Ambergris Caye. Its namesake brand would debut a 203 key oceanfront property and a boutique 155 key property called Alea, which will open up under its autograph collection in 2020. And there are two different renderings. Those are both currently under construction as we speak, and there are opportunities for purchase and ownership in both of those. In addition to that, we've already told you about the Curio Collection by Hilton. That is called the Mahogany Bay Village, a resort and beach club. They have 205 cottage and villa style rooms nestled there in that part, surrounded by coconut palms on their 60-acre waterfront site. And they also have that Bay Club, which has a nice pool, bar, poolside spa treatments, private white sand beach, and that is overlooking the west side coast of Ambergris Bay. So that's currently open. That's not planned. That's open. Another major resort, branded resort that we have being built right now is the Wyndham Grand at Venecia del Caribe. That's part of the Sandy Point Resort luxury properties. That's located on the northeast side of Ambergris Caye. Of course, we have Leonardo DiCaprio's eco resort, Blacador Caye, that's located off the west coast of Ambergris Caye. You can see a map of it here. And then we have the island of Cayo Rosario, which is a 10-acre island, complete with its overwater bungalow designs. This was recently approved. They had their EIA approved, so full government approval was awarded them. In order to do so, they had to do a little bit of a redesign, scale back on the volume of their project, but it was approved, as you see on the right-hand side of your screen, complete with a really cool overwater bungalow design. And they are going for a look that seems to be similar to what the Four Seasons Caye Chapel is going for. So that's going to be pretty exciting to see that built and be flushed out and opened. And then finally, at the southern tip of Ambergris Caye, we have the La Serene Resort. This is currently being built. Here's an aerial rendering of it. And this hasn't been branded yet, but rumors are that also a very large U.S. hotelier is going to be branding this. We don't know what that is yet. I think they're keeping it secret for now. But in the next few months, we expect an announcement here. And this is interesting because this is on the very southern tip of Ambergris Caye. One of you had emailed me just before the webinar, when are they going to finish paving the road down to this area? My answer would be very soon, because it's going to take a paved road to access this property, especially once it opens, and that's going to benefit all property owners in this area. So we've just covered the three reasons why some people feel confident in making an investment in a certain country, type of property, or certain type of investment is number one, if we feel we understand it, if we have enough information. Number two, if we understand the history, past, present, and future. We've just done that now in Ambergris Caye. And number three, if people and businesses we trust and are aligned with our values have invested as well. Interesting to note, every single one of these developments has had to look at their occupancy rates, at their impact on the island, their impact on the environment, and they have had to build and structure their resorts in such a way that does not harm the environment and that is good for the long-term growth of the country of Belize. They've had to pass EIA tests, the environmental impact assessment testing. They had to have governmental approval. So all parties involved know that as I go through each of these, it seems like it's a lot, but really it's very, very small amount of development compared to the size of the island and compared to the size of Belize. So just keep that in mind. As an example, this is really cool. This week, in fact, just yesterday, 14 hours ago, after being on the endangered list since 2009, the Belize Barrier Reef Reserve System has been removed from the UNESCO World Heritage Center list of World Heritage in danger on Tuesday. So they're taken off the endangered list. This happened on June 26, 2018, and this decision was made by the World Heritage Committee. Now, why? It's because of several things. Number one, Belize banning the oil exploration. Number two, Belize taking a very hard look at any and all current and future development. And for these reasons and many others, they view that the barrier reef is no longer in danger. And that's pretty significant because it shows that Belize is on the right path. They're developing, yes, but they're developing responsibly, and this provides us a good look into the future. Now, we've talked about the corporate investor, but how does this translate to you, the webinar attendee, who is an individual investor? Well, first of all, the corporate investment tells us two things. Number one, we've done our homework, we've crunched the numbers, and you're safe here. Places like the Four Seasons, the Marriott, Wyndham Grand, they have teams of accountants and lawyers who look at every minute detail of an area, of an investment, before they pull the trigger on anything. So you can be sure that they've researched the laws of Belize when it comes to ownership of real estate, taxes. They've done their extensive research on how many tourists are coming, where they're coming from, what they're spending their money on, where they're going, where they like to do. They've done all this. And so if they feel safe investing corporate money, especially this extensively into an area, we're not just talking one or two branded hotels, we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars coming into a very specific area of the country. It tells us that if they feel comfortable, people like you and I who don't have these huge teams behind us, we can at least feel some sort of comfort investing our hard-earned dollars in a property, whether it be land, home, or condo. See, the number one rule that Warren talked about in the beginning of our webinar, never lose money. These corporate investors do not like to lose money, and they're not investing for the short term. You've never seen a Four Seasons hotel up for sale, or a Marriott go bankrupt, or a Wyndham Grand go under. So these companies are investing for the long term, 10, 15, 20, 100 years down the road. If they're investing for the long term, it gives us, the individual investor, good reasons to do so as well. And number two, corporate investors like this prime the market. They give it massive amounts of exposure and advertising. So you can be sure that once the Four Seasons opens, you can imagine the millions of dollars they're going to put out advertising Belize as a destination. Of course, they want to draw people to their resort, but by extension, they're going to get a lot of others coming to Belize who cannot afford to stay at Four Seasons or simply don't want that experience. Same thing with Wyndham Grand, the Marriott, these other hotels. And what they're going to do is put out so much advertising that it's going to result in additional growth of these areas where they have built their places. So why is this important for people like you and I to consider? Well, corporate investment breeds confidence in a destination. It results in more tourists, especially good, more quality tourists. You see, these resorts are going to attract a certain type of clientele. The more exposure is given to the island, more interested buyers now are looking at real estate opportunities on Ambergris Caye, which results in less inventory. Because remember, the island has a finite supply of land and development. The way it's structured is that it will not always continue to grow. There is going to be a point where there are limits set on areas and what a person can own and how much. And that means that the existing properties and areas are going to see a spike in capital appreciation and a result in some areas being able to be further opened up or developed. We're going to talk about a few of those in a minute. So first of all, the question you might ask is, okay, I see the corporations coming in, but is this really translating into increased interest in the individual investor? How do I know? What can I do? Well, we can take a look at a couple things. First of all, there are a large percentage of real estate buyers in the United States and Canada who are looking for property abroad to use as a vacation home. So the question is are they looking at Belize specifically? Well, This is a slide that I snipped off of the CNBC investment real estate portion of the website, and they calculated just a few months ago that the monthly Google searches for Belize real estate was approximately 30,910. So 30,000 people per month are Googling the terms real estate in Belize. So there is an interest there. But how many is that really? Well, take a look at this next slide. The overnight arrivals to Belize for 2018. These are the numbers we have so far for January, February, and March. You see between 48,000 and 55,000 people are coming into the country through the international airport, and then they're going to places like Ambergris Caye, Caye Caulker, Placencia to vacation. And you have 30,000 on average Googling Belize real estate. So we see a very high percentage of everyone coming into the country is at least curious about doing something, buying and investing in something. 57% of all overnight investors to the country are looking at real estate opportunities in Belize. So we talked about investor confidence, both corporate and it appears individual investor confidence, which we can see by our sales in our own real estate company over the past 12, 24, 36 months. So the question you might be having is where and how are people buying? Well, if you've been following me for any length of time, you know that I am not a fan of buying in an area that is already 100% developed because that area will already be priced at the top of the market. Now, it is going to come with an additional level of security. For example, if you want a piece of beachfront property in an area that's already fully developed, where you know exactly who your neighbors to the north and south and west are, that piece of beachfront right now I can sell it to you, and it's going to cost you approximately 500 to 550,000 US dollars. But again, there's security in that. There's less risk, you might say, because you already know exactly what that area looks like. However, what I'm a fan of is buying just as nice of a beachfront property, but in an undeveloped area, in an area that is not fully built out yet. So, yes, there is some risk because you don't know exactly who your neighbors are going to be. But also, to me, it's less risky because you're able to get those beachfront lots at a vastly reduced cost. For example, if a beachfront property costs you 550,000 on the East Coast, you can get an equally nice and equally sized property on the West Coast, which is actually preferable in my opinion, the coast of Ambergris Bay, for approximately $179,000 to $185,000. So less than half the cost, much less risk investment wise, dollar wise. But to me, you get the excitement of buying an area that is going to develop and grow, and you can put your little stamp, your little mark on that area based on what you do with the property. So I encourage all of my clients to consider closely Wayne Gretzky's most famous quote: great hockey player plays to where the puck is. A great hockey player plays where the puck is going to be. So, what I do in my own personal investments, and I encourage all my clients to do this, is look at the island of Ambergris Caye, look at where some of the major developments are taking place, and then you say to yourself, okay, can I go just a little distance away from those developments and find an area that's not quite built out yet, but that has a good reason to benefit from this growth in the future? Now, as an example, one place that I really enjoy investing myself and where many of my clients have invested in is an area called Secret Beach. It's on the west side of Ambergris Caye, overlooking Cayo Rosario, right? So the new island development we talked about, overlooking Blackador Caye, Leonardo DiCaprio's island. So, in other words, if these two islands are being developed as luxury properties, if it's good enough for them and they believe in this area, doesn't it make sense that on the mainland of Ambergris Caye, properties facing Ambergris Bay with its pristine waters might also be good investments? Well, I think so, because take a look at this. This is the TripAdvisor website on Secret Beach, and tourists expats and locals alike love going and hanging out in this part of the island. And even, well, I'm going to show you a couple of pictures of here why. This part of the island is pristine. There's no seagrass. There's no trash washing up on the beach. It is now being developed. There's several restaurants there, beach bars. There's a little bed and breakfast there. Private homes are being built in this area. And something very exciting is the government has really turned its attention to this area, and we may see power coming across sooner than later based on some new developmental announcements that have taken place. And so we expect property values to rise even more once electric gets there. Everything you see now in these pictures is being ran off grid. People use solar generators, wind power. Water is by reverse osmosis systems or rainwater catchment. But this is a thriving little part of the island. And I can honestly say that the lots in and around this area are very, very desirable, both from a lifestyle perspective, those looking to retire to Belize or own a vacation home, because of the access to the bay, and also because the prices here are still very, very affordable and reasonable. Now, I mentioned the government turning attention to this area as well. This is a article that just appeared, I believe, Tuesday, so 2 days ago, how the government has an initiative to improve the access road going from San Pedro Town to Secret Beach. So this was done in connection with the Belize Tourism Board, the San Pedro Town Council, the Ministry of Works. They resurfaced, graded this road, and now the hundreds of visitors who visit this area will have a much easier time driving their golf carts over here. And they even installed some road signs, and so people can't get lost on their way over. I guess especially if they had a few beers too many, they don't want people getting lost in this remote part of the island. So one of the things that I recommend that people do, and again, if you've been following me for any length of time, is that when you look at investing in Belize, make your first investment small and easy. Don't get into something that's over your head or that's going to be a big risk for you. Invest an amount of money that you're comfortable with, but that's not a large risk, especially for your first property. So I recommend vacant land. Not a condo, not a home, not an apartment building. I recommend vacant land for these 6 reasons. Number one, you have a lower cost of entry. So let's say you're going to retire in 10 or 15 years. You could spend $300,000 on a house or $500,000 on a condo, or you could buy a piece of land for between $50,000 and $150,000 now and get in the market at a much lower point of entry. Number two, your risk is lower. As Warren's quote said, don't lose money. Well, it's much easier to lose money on a very large purchase, because if a very large purchase goes down in value for some reason by 10, 15% because something happened, well, if you're sitting in a $500,000 condo and it drops by 10%, that's a pretty hefty loss. If you're sitting on a piece of land that you paid $55,000 for, and if something happened and it went down 10% or even 20%, well, that's a lot better to swallow. Number three, it allows you to enter into the Belize real estate market easily and to test the market. So if you make a first purchase and it's a simple piece of land and that goes well for you, and you say to yourself, okay, I bought it for this amount, now it's worth this amount. I feel comfortable now doing something more. And I've actually had this happen several times where somebody's come to me and they purchased a simple, maybe a lot in Grand Belize Estates or Palmyra Woods or Ambergris Caye, and that's gone so well, they've come back and they purchased other properties because the first deal went well, and then eventually they ended up with that condo or home that they wanted. So that's what I like to do. Start small, work into something that you want later down the road. Number four is buying vacant land ensures that you get to be in the area of the island where you want to be, not that you can afford. So for example, if right now you wanted to be on the East Coast and you wanted to be on the beach, again, you're going to pay $500,000 for that lot, not including the price of the house. Maybe that's where you want to be. Let's say in 10 years, you say to yourself, you know what? I like that Secret Beach, or I like that Caribbean Cove area, or I like the Ambergris Bay area of the island. That's where I want to be in 10 years. Well, by buying it now or securing it now somehow, then you know that in 10 years you're not going to have to pay 550,000 because prices will have caught up. So buying now allows you to secure your spot in an area that you want to be. Another thing with vacant land is that we have very low property taxes. So on a piece of land, you're looking at maybe 75,000 or 75,000, my God, $75 US per year for a piece of land or piece of for taxes on a piece of land off beach, and $150 per year for taxes if your property is right on the beach, and you have no HOAs to worry about. You don't have to clear the property. You can leave it in its raw, natural state until you're ready to build. So there's no ongoing cost of maintenance with land. And what I like the best is you have complete freedom. What to build, when to build, how. You can build to your personal taste. If you don't want to build for 5, 10, 15 years, you don't have to. If you want to build now, you can. And you can build yourself. You can choose from any of the island's local builders. You can get their input, their assistance, whatever you want to do. But for all these reasons, this is why I suggest vacant land. So based on that, with your permission, I'd like to just briefly go through this week's webinar specials. The first one is a cash deal on a vacant land piece of lot. It has fee simple title, which means you get full ownership. The title is free and clear of any liens or encumbrances. It is ready to transfer to its new owner. You can take title in your personal name, in an LLC, in an IVC. And the second lot is similar, but that lot comes with financing, and the seller is able to offer some creative financing depending on how much money you have to put down. So let's just briefly go through these. It's not going to take much time, but this gives you an idea now of everything we talked about on this webinar so far, what might be a good, easy first investment for you. So first of all, parcel number 8533. This is a third row corner building lot, just 1 block north of Secret Beach, and it has all these positive things going for it. It has free and clear title. It is zoned commercial or residential, so you can build your home on it. You can build a duplex. You can build a small business, maybe a little off-beach bar or some sort of cafe or some sort of rental property. It is a standard lot, meaning you can build up to 3 stories, which is actually pretty tall because once you get above a story or two, your vistas open up and you can see literally for miles once you get up 3 stories. So I highly recommend that whatever you do with the property, even if you build a single story home, elevate it maybe 10, 15 feet, get up a bit so you can catch the breezes, catch the views. It's an outstanding way to maximize a property. You have free access to all beaches. So you can use Secret Beach. You can go up and down the coast, any beach you want, because in Belize, all beaches are public domain. It's called the Queen's Land. So you can fish, snorkel, kayak, have beach parties, whatever you want to do, anywhere up and down the West Coast. Let's see, I already talked about it being suitable for single family home or duplex, a small business. Again, you can leave it in its raw native state until you're ready to build. So you don't have to come down and clear it. You don't have to do anything to it. Leave it there till you're ready. And it is about 200 feet from the beach, the same beach where you see Caye Rosario and Blackador Caye off into the distance on Ambergris Bay. Now, along with the property itself, when you partner up with me on a deal like that, I can also do certain things for you. For example, I work very close with a local Belizean architect called Froylan Alvarado. He does excellent designs of simple beach homes all the way up to little McMansions. I will get you a personal interview with him to see if you guys would be a good fit to work together. He really does a good job at listening to a client's needs. How they like to live, what they're looking for, the vibe and feel of home that the person wants built. And he really does his best to come in on time and in budget and give you a design that is unique and has that perfect island paradise feel that you're looking for. I also can make a personal introduction to Armando Graniel of Graniel's Construction Company. He is the premier top builder on the island. He's very difficult to get a hold of, but I work with him and so have several of my clients. And so if you're ready to build, I can get you in front of him, and Armando can give you a quote on building your dream home. So that's kind of cool. And I can also set up a one-on-one consultation with you to see if this property that you're looking at buying should be held in your personal name or in an LLC or in an IBC. And what I recommend is different depending on what your goals are. If you have a simple 5-year goal, 10-year plan, if you have kids, grandkids, if you want to own this in some sort of corporate entity. But I can give you some advice and tips and tricks on how to take ownership to minimize your taxes, and especially to minimize the impact it might have on your loved ones in the future, especially if you plan to pass the property on to them. And then finally, if you're looking to work in Belize, I can give you some tips and tricks on how to start and operate a successful business so you can generate some income. So that all being said, here are the numbers on this lot. It's very, very reasonable. 55,000 US is the asking price. Again, just off Secret Beach. I think it's an excellent price for property in this area. The closing costs are just under $2,000 US. And the stamp tax, that's a tax paid by the buyer of the property to the government, is $3,600. So your total investment for the land to secure it today is just over $60,000. The way this works is you put down 10% money now into the escrow company. Once all the paperwork is signed, once the title is transferred over, then you pay your balance, and that is usually due in 45, sometimes up to 60 days. However, on this webinar, I contacted the buyer or the seller today who lives in the United States, and he has authorized me to give any of my attendees today a little bit of an incentive on this lot. So the stamp tax on this property is $3,600. He will take that amount off the purchase price. So he's willing to kick back to you $3,600 to pay for your stamp tax. So that brings the total investment down to $56,975. So just under $57,000. Again, this is a large corner lot. It's got 2 sides of road frontage, has a direct view of the beach looking down the road. This is an excellent property to look at for a vacation home, for a retirement home, and to build maybe a small business on. Now, the second property that I wanted to highlight, the one that comes with financing, is parcel number 8813. This is just off the main commercial road leading to Secret Beach. It's 1 row off. It also has free and clear title. It's ready to transfer. It is zoned commercial or residential, has a 3-story height limit, so it's a standard lot. Again, you get free access to all the beaches in the area, and you can build a single home, a duplex, a small business on this property. It's also in its raw native state. You can leave it like that till you're ready to build. The benefit to this lot, it's a much larger lot than many in the area. So your average size properties in this area are 60 feet wide by 80 feet deep, enough for a small home business. This lot is much larger, 100 feet by 100 feet. So I forgot to calculate the percentage, but it's quite a bit larger. And as I mentioned, seller financing is available. Here is a map of where it's located. Also with the price is $57,500. It is just 2 blocks on that main road leading to Secret Beach. So in this slide, I show 2 properties. The lower, sort of like the lower left-hand side one where the arrow is pointing to, that's the lot. But notice the other one with the red square around it, that is right on the main road. Well, if you purchase lot number 8813, you will be neighbors just across the road of parcel number 8793. And that was just purchased this week by a very good client of mine and friend, Brad. I won't give his last name because of maybe privacy issues. But Brad just purchased lot number 8793 this week. It is closing on it. And this is a recommendation, or you can say a referral from Brad. He said, I totally recommend Dennis for anybody looking for an honest, hardworking, knowledgeable realtor in Belize. And just interestingly, this is his second property purchase in Belize. His first one was a lot in Grand Belizean Estates. Now he's went over more closer to Secret Beach. So that's a nice plug. So we appreciate that, Brad. But here is the information on the seller financing. So depending on how much you have to work with, if you put 50% down, remember the purchase price is $57,500, 50% down, the seller would do no payments, no interest, until January 2019. And after that, you can finance the balance at 8% for 30 years with no prepayment penalty. Now, just as a piece of information here, the banks in Belize charge between 10.5 to 12% interest, and you got to jump through hoops to get a loan. So 8% might seem high for North American standards. Actually, it's much, much lower from what you can get in Belize. So 50% down, no payments, no interest to January 2019, balance 8% for up to 30 years. If you can afford 25% down, he'll do no payments, no interest to December 2018, balance at 9% for 30 years, and again, no prepayment penalty. So what that means is with all of these deals is you can make your monthly payments, but then if you come into a chunk of cash, maybe you sell a home or a property or you get a nice tax return, you can use that money to chunk down your balance, and there's never any prepayment penalty for that. Now, for those of you who are really stretched for coming up with a down payment at this time, you just don't have much to work with, but you want to get in on something, you can go as low as 10% down, no payments, no interest until October 2018, and the balance at 10% for 30 years, no prepayment penalty. 10%, just so you know, is the standard interest rate on all financing deals in Belize. Doesn't matter if it's a home, it's a condo, it's a piece of vacant land. I think over the past year, I've written at least 20 to 30 contracts that involve financing, and every one was written at 10%. So 10% is the standard, but if you can do a little bit higher down payment, you can get it as low as 8%. Again, we thank the seller for coming up with this creative financing. So if you'd like to get started now, you should know that these two webinar deals, the incentives on these expire July 15th. So just in about 2 weeks from now, you have the corner lot, direct beach access lot, parcel number 8533, that's going for 55,000 US. The incentive is the seller will kick back 3,600 to help you pay for your stamp tax. And then that other prime residential lot, parcel 8813, the one with that 100 foot by 100 foot in size, the creative financing, all the way down to 10% down payment is what the seller is offering for financing on that. So excellent deals. If you're interested, please email me right away, denniskii@gmail.com. For those of you who have been following my webinars for any length of time, you know that these do tend to sell as I present them. I host webinars quite often, always presenting different properties, and these are the two best deals that I have found right now. Now, you might be asking, can I buy online? How does this all work? I've never visited Belize before. Well, this is the interesting thing. 87% of all of my clients invest with me online. We partner up online. How does this work? Simple. We use a registered Belizean closing and title company named Belize Caye Investments. They have an office right downtown San Pedro. They are a registered on-island closing company, so they handle all the escrow, all the transfer funds. They do the title search work. They do the title transfer funds. They are your legal protection when buying property in Belize. If you've heard of somebody getting scammed before, having a deal go south, most likely it's because they tried to do it on their own. They tried to do some deal direct with some property seller, and that's where they get themselves in trouble. Always, always get yourself protected, lessen your risk, and go through a legal closing company. Someone like Belize Caye Investments is who we use, and the REMAX office uses them, Coldwell Banker uses them, many of the other real estate companies on island use them. They're excellent. The paperwork is handled in one of two ways. Number one is if you are simply signing a purchase agreement and offer, we send everything via email through a program called DocuSign. And for those documents that have to be signed in person, we use FedEx. So for example, your title transfer paperwork, it's very simple. We send it to you first as the buyer. You sign, you FedEx it to the seller. They sign, they send it back to Belize. Everything is taken care of that way. I provide as much information as possible for all the properties that I sell. And again, most of my clients have never actually set foot on the properties that they're buying, which you might think, well, how is that possible? Many of them have not even been to Belize before, but because we provide so much information in terms of maps, references, referrals, pics, videos, they feel 100% comfortable investing with us. So, for example, on these two deals that I presented now in this webinar, if you're interested, if you like what you see, but you would just like another level of comfort, I can provide you personal references of owners who actually have purchased property from me in this exact area. One example is Janet. Janet's from Canada. In April 2018, she purchased a beachfront lot from me. We have never met before. I'm sitting right now in Paris. She's sitting in Canada. We found her a property in Belize that I know very well, that I had been to before. We were able to put a deal together. All the paperwork was handled online and through Belize Investments. Today, she still has not set foot on the property, but through videos, maps, pictures, she knows exactly what she purchased, and she was able to give me a nice recommendation and review for helping with her with that. And I greatly appreciate that, Janet. I view all of my clients and buyers as friends, and I'm excited to help her and to help others achieve their Belizean dreams. So that's about it for me. I've been going on for, let's see, about an hour and 20 minutes now. Thank you all for staying online. So if you have more questions, please go ahead and start to ask them now, and I will answer as many as possible. And while you're doing that, I'm going to throw up another poll on the screen just so I can take a sip of tea, clear my throat for a minute, and then I'll come back and start to answer all your questions live. So here's a poll. Based on what I learned today, I am very interested in Belize. That's a statement. Please pick one of the four that most closely lets me know how you're feeling at this time. Please do that, and I'll come back in about 20 seconds. And of course, I'm going to share the poll with all of you. This is actually pretty cool because there's nothing to hide in this. I mean, you sat through here, you listened to me present, and now I'm just going to show you what you and your fellow attendees are saying. And it's neat because after this, I post this on YouTube, so hundreds and potentially thousands more people see it. All right, I'm going to close the poll out and share it. There you go. So 60% of you are definitely pretty excited to do this. Thank you for that. Another 40% are fairly interested in learning more, so that's good. I like that cautiousness. Just to let you know, not only am I not high pressure myself, but I am a very cautious investor with my own funds. I started small when I first started getting into Belize real estate. I think my first property was $20,000 or $25,000. Since then, I built up a pretty high net worth portfolio of properties there. But it's not without a lot of learning and research like you're doing now. And I'm very cautious with my own money. I don't like to lose, and I'm also very cautious with your money. So I'm never going to recommend a property that you can't afford, and I'm never going to recommend you to do something if you're not 100% on board. In fact, I don't know if I have an attendee on today. Nope, I don't. So I'm going to talk about it. There's some clients that don't seem to be comfortable with making certain purchases. Maybe it's a condo, or I just don't get the feeling that it's right for them. And so what I recommend is they go into a lower priced property. For instance, if they're all gung ho and going with something like, beachfront or a condo, but it's going to be a stretch for them, I'll see if we can still find them a way to get in the market, but maybe going with an initial first step, maybe trying to, trade up or do something else later. But again, I guess I'm just telling you this because I'm very cautious myself, and I think you should be as well. That being stated, I do think you should take advantage of something and try to find some way to get in the game so you can benefit like I did and my other clients did moving forward, and really take advantage of the growth. So that being said, let's get those results off the screen and go to your questions. So we have a question here from Lee. Lee says, are there any all-inclusive properties on the island, or will any of these be all-exclusive? I'm assuming the ones you mentioned that are being built. So first of all, no, there are no all-inclusives on Ambergris Caye, and I think there's a reason for that. Number one is there aren't any that are really large enough to have all inclusives in the form of restaurants to keep people interested in eating there 3 times a day. Let me give you an example. I've been to places like Cancun, Playa del Carmen, where you have a very large resort, maybe with 2 or 3 pools. They might have 4 or 5 different international style restaurants, so you can eat there without getting bored. One of our largest resorts is Cocoa Beach and Grand Caribe, Mahogany Bay Village. Even there, those aren't large enough to have all of their overnight guests just wanting to stay there. And to be honest, there are so many cool restaurants on the island and places to eat. I don't think they would want the overnight guests stay there in that one location. It's not like when you go to Jamaica where you have like a gated community. You have to stay there because of safety reasons. Most tourists to the island rent a golf cart and they zoom up and down the island and they'll go to Secret Beach and hang out there for a day, or they'll go down south to Mahogany Bay Village and go to the coffee shop at Rum and Bean. And because the cost of food isn't really an issue, there was really no incentive for a resort to lure people in with a food and beverage package. For instance, you can go to places like Neary's Tacos and other places for breakfast and literally eat for $2 or $3 US per person for breakfast, or go to a local chicken place and have like a $5 or $6 lunch. And that's local, that's good local food. So we don't have any all inclusives. And to my knowledge, none of these branded hotels either are going to offer that because I just don't think the island is set up for that. I don't think it's demand, and people are looking to be more explorative on the island, especially when it comes to getting out and experiencing the different restaurants and cafes. All right, so hopefully it answers your question. Well, it's not a question, but I have an attendee here. Thanks, Dee Dee. Says she's still waiting for the sale of her ranch so she can fly down and buy. So thank you for that. And I know we've been working together for some time, so appreciate that, Dee Dee. We're ready for you. As soon as that ranch sells, come on down and we'll help you get into something. So appreciate that. Any other questions specific to the information that I presented today, or other questions you had? I see questions coming in. Some of them are regarding healthcare or other things like that. Some of the questions you have I have answers to, but they can't be answered quickly in the next minute or two. So I just will mention that healthcare, the island has excellent healthcare, good doctors, good polyclinics, and it's just going to be getting better in the future, especially with everything looking at going on with the branded resorts. That's going to bring in more clientele and more of a need even for expanded medical care like smaller hospitals and things like that. So that's coming. Anything else specific? Okay, I have a couple questions regarding taxes. Okay, I talked a little bit about low property taxes. There also are no capital gains taxes in Belize. So that's pretty interesting. And also, if you're looking to build a property and rent it when you're not here, maybe through Airbnb or have a property management company rent it for you, property taxes on your gross income is extremely low, 1.9% of the nightly rate. So if you rent a place for $200 a night, you're looking at paying a couple bucks in taxes to the Belize government. So not much at all. Anything else here that I can answer quickly? All right, we'll save that. Save that. All right. Oh, very good. All right. Excellent, guys. Excellent. Well, listen, I'm going to respond to a couple of you via email because you have questions regarding to specific properties and specific real estate needs. I've been going now for an hour and a half. So thank you all of you who stayed on this long. I really appreciate it. Again, if you have anything urgent, give me an email. Maybe we can set up a Skype call or a personal chat and get your questions answered. If you do want to move forward, again, on one of those two properties and take advantage of those incentives, let me know. Please try to do so as soon as you can. I believe in educating my clients so that they can take effective action when the time is right for them. So if the time is right now, let me know and we'll help you pull the trigger. All right, once again, this is Dennis Caye with Belize Islands Real Estate coming to you live today, and I hope to see all of you down in paradise very soon. Cheers.